Eilin and Arin, and the Elven Staff of Elements Part 2. We publish a new bedtime read-along story every night, so make sure to tap the subscribe button so you never miss any. Chapter 3, The Battle for the Staff. Eilin, Arin, and the dwarves set out from Ironhold, their eyes fixed on the distant mountain range where the staff was said to be located. The journey was treacherous, with steep slopes and icy winds that threatened to topple even the most skilled climbers. But the travelers pressed on, their determination fueled by the knowledge that the fate of Arantha rested on their success. As they drew near to the mountain, they encountered a horde of orcs, their eyes gleaming with malice. The orcs were armed with crude weapons, and their ranks were swelled by giant trolls and fierce goblins. The dwarves drew their axes, and Eilin and Arin summoned the elements, their magic crackling in the air. The battle was fierce and chaotic, with swords and arrows flying in all directions. The orcs were strong and relentless, but the travelers fought with a desperate courage that drove them back again and again. Eilin's elven bow sang, sending arrows flying true to their targets. Arin called forth the power of fire and earth, hurling flames and boulders that shattered the ranks of the orcs. The dwarves swung their axes with deadly precision, their armored bodies shrugging off blows that would have felled a lesser warrior. But the orcs were too many, and the travelers were soon surrounded. Eilin and Arin found themselves back to back, their weapons flashing as they fought off wave after wave of enemies. The dwarves were locked in their own battle, their axes ringing against the blades of the orcs. Just when it seemed that all was lost, a powerful blast of magic rocked the battlefield. A figure appeared on the ridge above them, a wizard with a staff in his hand. He wore robes of blue and silver, and his face was set in a grim expression. The wizard hurled a bolt of lightning at the orcs, scattering them like leaves in a gale. He descended from the ridge, his staff glowing with power. "I am Talon," he said. "I sense the battle from afar, and I have come to aid you." Eilin and Arin exchanged glances, relieved to have another ally on their side. The dwarves cheered, their spirits renewed. Together, the travelers and Talon charged forward, their weapons flashing in the light of the rising sun. The orcs fell before them like wheat before a scythe, their ranks dwindling with each passing moment. At last, the battle was won. The orcs retreated into the shadows, their defeat ringing in their ears. The travelers stood panting, their bodies bruised and battered, but their hearts filled with a fierce sense of triumph. The mountain lay ahead of them, its slopes beckoning with the promise of the staff. Eilin and Arin exchanged glances, knowing that the battle ahead would be even harder than the one they had just fought. But they pressed on, their eyes fixed on the prize that lay ahead. For the fate of Arantha rested on their success, and they would not falter. Chapter 4, The Aftermath. Eilin, Arin, and the dwarves trudged up the final stretch of the mountain, their eyes fixed on the summit where the staff lay waiting. The journey had been long and arduous, fraught with danger and betrayal. But now, with the end in sight, they felt a sense of anticipation mingled with fear. As they reached the summit, they saw the staff lying in a cradle of stone. It was taller than any of them, its wood gleaming with a pale light. Eilin and Arin approached it cautiously, their hands reaching out to touch its surface. Suddenly, a voice rang out, echoing across the mountaintop. "Who dares to touch the staff of Arantha?" It boomed. Eilin and Arin stepped back, their eyes wide. They saw a figure appear before them, a wizard with a staff of his own. He wore robes of red and gold, and his face was twisted in a snarl. "I am Malakar," he said. "I am the rightful owner of the staff, and I will not let it fall into the hands of those who would use it for evil." Eilin and Arin exchanged glances, knowing that they had no choice but to fight. The dwarves drew their axes, and Eilin and Arin summoned their magic, their eyes fixed on Malakar. The battle was fierce and intense, with bolts of magic flying back and forth. Malakar was a skilled wizard, his powers rivaling their own. But Eilin and Arin fought with a fierce determination, their bodies battered and bruised but their spirits unbroken. At last, after what seemed like hours, Malakar fell to the ground, his staff shattered. Eilin and Arin stood panting, their bodies aching but their hearts filled with a sense of victory. They took up the staff, feeling its power coursing through their veins. They knew that with it, they could defeat the darkness that threatened to engulf Arantha. As they made their way back to Ironhold, They were greeted with cheers and applause. The dwarves welcomed them as heroes, their faces shining with pride. The people of Aranther bowed before them, their gratitude palpable. Eilin and Arin were hailed as saviors, their names spoken with reverence. They knew that their journey was not yet over, but they felt a sense of hope that had been absent since the beginning of their quest. They knew that with the staff, they could drive back the darkness that threatened to engulf Aranther. And they vowed to fight with all their might, no matter what the cost. As the sun set on the horizon, they stood atop the walls of Ironhold, their eyes fixed on the future. They knew that the road ahead would be long and treacherous, but they felt a sense of determination that nothing could shake. For they were Eilin and Arin, the guardians of Aranther, and they would not rest until the darkness was banished forever. The end. Do you want to hear more stories? Then hit the subscribe button to follow our channel, so you never miss another daily story. And keep listening now, as more stories will play shortly.